the senator, while indoctrinated, could not explain his toxicity.
Coming to you live from deep. Wait. Did we do the intro? Is the intro done?
Yeah, for some reason it wasn't playing, so I just skipped to this screen. So sorry.
Okay,
Go ahead
so
and
that's-
continue.
that's-
For crying out loud, how badly can we fuck this up right from the get-go? Coming to you live from an icy, sandy,
deep
rainy.
within a windy and rainy and also sometimes sunny radioactive meme land.
No,
Yes.
sunny, thundering, lightninging, downpouring. Sometimes, occasionally sunny, overgrown, jungle-like radioactive meme land.
Yes. We are the survivors of the alt-right apocalypse. Oh, that's what it is.
Apocalypse.
Yeah, but you said that. Okay, all right. You try that after alt-right apocalypse. There's something about
We
the
are
alt-
the survivors of the alt-right apocalypse.
the few, the brave, the bitchy, once more wading into battle against the lobster hordes with Fundzerker. Oh, fuck. Oh,
Who
God, I hope this is the
cares?
end
We're
of this.
going straight to the hellish freaking knowing better in his trilby that he's pretending is a fedora.
Ironically.
Yeah,
He's wearing it ironically.
with like a plastic fucking skull on the arm of his couch. It looks like the skull my daughter bought for Halloween to put on the porch that ended up getting blown off by the wind, and now the dogs peed on it so many times that nobody wants to touch it, so it's just like a fixture in our yard now.
Well, maybe they'll pee on it enough that the uric acid crystals will permanently fuse it with your step.
No, it's in the grass now.
Okay, we'll permanently fuse it with like whatever substrate is under your grass.
I'm just like, okay, so like, and my daughter, she's a Halloween enthusiast, right? So she puts up like police tape that says, crime scene, do not enter, blah, 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 all along our fence, right? And then she leaves it up for like 3 months. And I'm like, I'm not fucking, you put that up. Like you had the energy and the motivation to put it up. You can freaking go take it down, right?
Mm.
And
I think that's a life lesson there.
Yeah, and the skull on the porch and all of these things that she puts up because, she's very gung-ho for,
Is there something
really
that he's trying to say with this lighting? Because you're right. The reason why
he's pretending to be Davis Arini.
Oh, why? Did
Because
we
he
discuss
thinks
this last time?
Yeah, I think so. Because he thinks Davis Arini is an MRA, right? So the skull is there in the background because there's always a skull in the background of one of Davis Arini's videos. Davis Arini frequently wears a fedora and some kind of suit jacket or suit vest, with a nice shirt type thing, right? He's like a snappy dresser, and he always essentially has a tumbler with a little bit of whiskey on ice next to him. And this guy's been using a tumbler as a prop, so he's like totally channeling Davis Arini.
Yeah, it looks like
even though Davis Arini is not an MRA and thinks MRAs are pussies.
Okay,
and leftists. Also, unfortunately,
hey guys, let me speak.
All right,
for
go
goodness
ahead.
Sake. Jeez, I was gonna say, if you don't mind, that he looks like a hipster. Yeah, I've noticed that you guys do mind. He looks like a hipster horror show.
Oh, he looks like half the freaking guys who call me a pick-me on Twitter.
What the hell does that even mean?
Oh, a pick-me.
Oh, that's that sarcastic You know what?
That's the you're only doing this to get male attention. Maybe some man, if you like subjugate yourself enough, maybe some man will pick you, right? So like half the guys who tell me on Twitter, you're a pick me, right? Look like this guy.
Okay. I just want to say that if I wanted male attention, I would live in a city, not a town of 1,000 people.
Your
Half of
town
whom are
is like
elderly.
1,000 people? I thought it was like 500.
It's 1,000. Thank you very much.
I don't think so.
Yeah, it is. It is close. Anyway, it's like 980 or something.
Duh.
That being what it may, I think that Brian has some questions for me, I believe.
No, I was just gonna say that he just doesn't have the great view that Davis Arini has. He needs like a balcony.
He's not sitting against a window with like an entire nighttime cityscape, like the skyline of a urban center lit up behind him through the window. So yeah, he's it's pretty lame. Also, as far as I know, typically Davis Arini is very clean shaven.
Okay,
Yes,
well,
yes,
He,
and
he
bald.
doesn't he doesn't go on camera very often with stubble.
Yeah, he looks like he's like an online Lex Luthor kind of channeling that. But so my question was this:
Even when he has facial hair, he just doesn't show his face until it's grown
I think
in
we've
enough.
exhausted the topic of David Arini.
Davis.
I think I'm gonna be like Davis, whatever. Can we move on?
Yes. So
Okay.
why? So like last time I did a show on Tuesday, the news show, and I was shilling the fundraiser, and someone asked in a comment why the amount has changed because they didn't quite understand, and they thought that we had hit our goal. So I'm going to display this for you guys now, and we have a new goal. So I wanted Alison to explain why this is, so that people understand. We did hit our goal that we had originally set, but this is not as simple as that. So,
Well, the
Alison,
bare minimum goal.
Yeah, this is okay. So just to explain, and I got this question on Twitter as well, and I understand it's confusing because I didn't actually set this up clearly in the beginning, and I apologize because I was just, guys, I'm like really exhausted. I'm really tired. So if you actually go down into the fundraiser, it's the second question from the bottom, or actually it was originally the first question, but then I got that question and I answered it. Why are you also doing a speaker sponsor and ticket drive? We're projecting a shortfall of between 20 to 40K, and I'd like to minimize the financial impact on Honey Badger Radio. So the initial goal was essentially just a start to what I ultimately wanted to get, which was around, right smack in the middle, which was 30K. So, and I didn't make that really clear. I should probably put, this is our first stretch goal, this is our second stretch goal, this is our third stretch goal, and we're on our third stretch goal now. So I apologize for that. Like I said, I'm pretty tired, and I mean, it's taken me this long to do the next fundraiser vid, which I promised like 3 weeks ago. Yeah, I don't know if you know this, but when I started this convention planning, I thought, I could just I could just I could just get a vacation. Like I could plan it. I could be this convention could be my vacation. It doesn't work like that though.
No. You didn't honestly think that, did you?
Maybe I did think that.
Okay,
Maybe
well,
I did.
all I gotta say is every time I've ever traveled with you, you do tend to do some touristy things. Right? Somehow you find the time and energy to do some touristy things.
You mean I
right?
walk around in a city?
Yeah, and the only time I ever do that is when I bring my guy with me and he forces me to do it. Otherwise, I'm just at home or at the hotel, working and preparing, right? Like I'm a very let's see, I conserve my energy.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of the time what I'm doing is, for example, in Amsterdam, um, I had to rearrange my clock, so I was trying to keep myself awake, so I just wandered around the city for the first day. But like I don't want to get defensive about this. It was basically a joke, Karen. I knew that this wasn't going to be
Yeah, no,
vacation.
it's never a vacation,
It
right?
never is. And I
You
mean,
know, you enjoy vacations, you enjoy going, and so you make some time sometimes, right, to actually enjoy walking around a new city or whatever. I tend to like avoid that like the plague. I I get off the plane, I get on the shuttle bus, I go to the hotel, I go to the conference, then I get back on the shuttle bus and go back to the airport. That's how I do these things, right? And like so, and I've been accused of essentially treating this kind of stuff as a vacation. And it's like, no, it's not a vacation. It's work.
well, be
Right.
that as it may, I don't think that what I'm doing is really that bad.
No, it's not. It's not. I'm just saying that I'm not a touristy kind of person. Like I wouldn't travel if I had the choice. I would never get on a plane.
I feel like this joke is not just dead. It's like been taxidermied and
Wait,
possibly
did this
buried, and
even
then
start off as a joke?
yeah. Well, I was joking that you don't create a conference to take a vacation, and then Karen brought up that, oh, but you do touristy stuff sometimes, and I'm like, yeah, like I
There's a
walk around a city.
jaguar. There's a jaguar feasting on an impala on my deck. No, it's just Chuck Testa with another realistic mount.
Yeah, I guess I feel sort of self-conscious, but I mean, for the most part, I don't really do anything like this. These aren't vacations.
No.
Yes, I will go and I'll walk around a city
Oh,
if I'm
like you're
there.
not allowed to enjoy yourself. I enjoy myself by sitting in my hotel room watching cooking shows
Yeah, no,
because I don't
I
have
enjoy
cable
myself
TV,
by
and that's
actually
the
getting out,
only.
walking
Okay,
around a city and seeing what the
we
city looks like. Anyway, we're
yeah.
far off the field. So why
Yeah.
is this?
You guys have not only did you attempt to tell a joke and then it kind of went into the weeds, but then you tried to explain the joke that went into the weeds. It just is we've gone 15 minutes.
All right.
We've
Thank
gone
you,
15
Brian. Yes,
minutes.
back on task.
Well,
Okay.
Okay.
you know what? You know what? This 15 minutes is 15 minutes better spent than discussing knowing better.
Okay,
Eh,
I'm gonna try to bring it back. So I'm projecting a shortfall of between 20 to 40K because as you all have heard, about 20K of that is going to go to my touristing activities. That's a joke. Please
yeah,
don't quote that.
that didn't really. Okay, go ahead.
Okay,
Oh,
so what
she's
is
I
hiring
know it's a
she's
joke.
hiring a limousine to drive her all over Chicago.
it?
And she's getting hookers and
So
blow.
fucking awkward. Yes, it's all going to my hookers and blow budget. No, it's going to
Fund.
the conference. You can see the budget in the actual fundraiser. Um, there's some extra perks that we've done this time. We've done a Hoova app. We've done what we're going to be doing a program book. So, and this is ultimately not necessarily like a fundraiser. I know there was one person on Twitter who shall not be named who was saying, "Oh, this is unsuccessful because you have to do a fundraiser to fund it." Well, this is actually more like a sales drive because we're selling things associated or created by the event itself. So, if you're interested in any live streams of the event, like first crack at the live stream, getting the entire content from the event because some of it won't be made public, or interested in having a remote ticket and enjoying watching everything live, then go to feedthebadger.com and help us out to make up that shortfall. And
I just want to say to that asshole who, is like, "Oh, you need to do a fundraiser cuz you fail." Right? Well, I went to see Anita Sarkeesian when she came to my town. There were about 300 people in the audience. And we all paid about $15 a ticket, and she was paid $20,000 and had all of her expenses covered. And the Edmonton Public Library system sponsored that event.
wow, I feel really happy that my tax dollars are going to Anita Sarkeesian.
Yeah.
Holy crap. Okay. Well, that's a lovely thought. So anyway,
Yeah, no, it's literally, and it wasn't just it was the Edmonton Public Library that hosted the event. Shut up, dog! I'm gonna fucking kill you. Oh my god, there's a dog outside. Oh my god. Here, let me spray you with water and make you be quiet. Okay.
All right.
It wasn't just like because the tickets, right? So she's got a $20,000 speaking fee. You're looking at $5,000 in costs to accommodate her because I'm sure she stayed at the luxury hotel where the event was hosted, which was the Chateau Lacombe. Um, and then you have the actual rental of the banquet room, right? And I'm thinking to myself, okay, so Edmonton Public Library hosted this, and then there were other corporate sponsors who donated money to make it happen. It's kind of like when somebody gets on our case because we have to ask for money to do things when uh walk a mile in her shoes, right? Every single radio station in town sends a DJ or two to go wobble a mile in high heels and participate in that, and they all give money to it, and they all aggressively promote it,
I know.
right?
It's almost like we're not really the mainstream, which
Yeah, I
it's actually
know.
exactly like that. Everything that we do has to be basically crowdfunded by guys like the people listening to us. So thank you. Feedthebadger.com. It was absolutely a joke. This is not going to anything touristy. Um, maybe a subway ticket so I can go down to the after all of this is done, I can go down and walk the waterfront or something. Um, but other than that, this is you can go and look at the budget on the website. That's another thing. I got a question like, well, what is this money going to? And I'm like, well, the budget shows you what it's
Mhm.
going to. But anyway, so we're looking at a shortfall of between 20 to 40K. So I figured I'd try to get right in the middle of that. We are because I just managed to get because initially this fundraiser was completely screwed up. It was not it wasn't working properly initially, so I had to work with the people who created the plugin to get it. So everybody put things through the contribute what you want. So finally, I got the whole thing sorted. So we have so we have 25,773, and the remainder is about 4,000 something change, and that will basically bring us out of the black, or sorry, out of the red and into the black.
Yeah.
So please do, if any of these options are of interest, throw some shekels in the hat. Every little bit counts. So let's get on with the show because I feel like,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, no, it's honestly though, like we just don't want to end up being like you know, taking a $65,000 bath
yeah,
on
yeah, no,
a conference, right? Like, like it's just
no,
and
that's
people
that's we would prefer not to.
yeah, and people say, well, the tickets are so expensive, and it's like this is a 3-day freaking conference.
Well, to be honest, I did do a lot of research on ticket prices. First of all,
Mhm.
this is the same price as every other ICMI around. I think Australia was cheaper, but they had a public library that
Yeah.
they had their venue.
Yeah.
That wasn't really possible for us. So uh, our ticket prices are in line, and they're also in line, quite honestly, with a specialty, because we are a specialty. Or specialty, sort of a niche area of specialty. And the level of, the professionals that are coming to the conference to present, this is right in line with the costs of something like this.
Yeah.
And again, like what you were getting at is we don't get sponsorship from the mainstream. We don't get sponsorship
Yeah,
from a
London
library.
Drugs isn't handing us $10,000 to help us make our event happen.
No. And
Yeah,
that may
and
never
and
happen.
neither is the city of Chicago.
No, no.
No.
I'm just glad that we're just generally getting mostly disinterest from a lot of I'm not from people, but uh, the I'm happy with neutrality. I can work with the neutrality. people screaming and fighting and wanting
Oh,
to
there
get rid
haven't
of
been
us.
any protests. Yeah, there haven't been
No.
any protests or demands to city council in Chicago to have our event banned like happened in 2014 in Detroit. There haven't been any big, huge campaigns on social media to shut us down.
Knock
None
on
of
wood.
that. Yeah, not yet. And if there are, I mean, like, there's been an unprecedented level of press interest in this event, right? We have how many press passes have we given out? 13, 15 so far? You know, to media from Bloomberg to the BBC. So it's like, if people want to behave badly at our, you know, in front of the place where our conference is being held, I welcome them to do that and make themselves look like idiots.
Yeah, sure. Like, if you want, you have every right to protest and make your voice heard. So, okay, let's get into it. Let's do this
Okay,
thing.
let's get into this thing.
Well, I don't really want to, but I guess
I know.
we have to.
Well, but this is what we've offered them. I put it in the title. So.
Mm.
All right, so I'm going to read the one super chat really quick. Golgotha Hydra gives us $2 Canadian and says, how much money for extra time in the ball pit? The ball pit.
There is no ball pit. And also, donate to feedthebadger.com. Don't give a super chat. Don't feed Susan Wojcicki.
Yeah.
She takes 30%.
Go to
what
Feed
the
the
fuck
Badger.
is wrong with you? Why would you give a super chat?
Go to Feed the Badger in the future, but as I understand it, the ball pit will only have blue balls in it, which means there isn't a ball pit. So don't hold out. All right, so we're gonna continue where this left off. This is Knowing Better's video called "Taking on the Red Pill / Men's Rights Activism," and where we left off, he was talking about rape. That was where we left off. And the last clip great. I know, it's a great thing to start off on. The last thing that we responded to was, of course, he cited the 1 in 5 women are raped in their lifetime and 1 in 71 men, and we responded to that. So now we're going to get into the next segment on the topic of rape.
But really, when men are concerned about rape, their biggest concern is being falsely accused. Many in the manosphere believe that 40 or 50% of all rape allegations are false and that women are lying. And they get that number from one discredited study. When a woman reports a rape...
No, that study was not discredited. There were people who nitpicked that study and said, you can't say 40% for sure, but that study was only there to essentially try to pin an estimate on a dark number that cannot be known. Right? So it was never saying, oh yeah, 40% of rape accusations are definitely false. It was saying, well, from what it looks like here, 40% are probably false.
Essentially, it's saying, like, it's trying to push back on the idea that almost no rape accusations can possibly be false, which is the feminist argument is that like 2% are false, right?
It wasn't trying to push back against that. I can guarantee you, because of when it was actually done, right? But the only false rape accusation studies that feminists will accept as even remotely valid are the ones where an accusation is proven false to a criminal court standard, right? To a criminal court beyond a reasonable doubt level of certainty. Okay. Those are the only ones that they will accept as valid, right? And every other rape accusation, including the 80% or so that can't be proven either way, those all go back into the big bucket of rapes that actually happened.
Yeah. And does this include men that are not found guilty? And so because there isn't enough evidence or whatever?
No. Like feminists do not consider an acquittal in a criminal court to be evidence that the rape accusation was false.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was asking.
They only consider that if the evidence that the accusation is false is so strong that you could secure a criminal conviction on a criminal mischief or perjury charge against the accuser, right? That you could actually get a conviction on that, right? So yeah, no, and here's the thing too. There's a guy named there's a blog called Data Gone Odd. Okay, and he has a couple of blog posts, part 1 and part 2, called How to Lie and Misrepresent with Rape Statistics. Okay. And in part 2, he actually examines one of these feminist approved studies. Okay. And this is a study done by the MAD Foundation, Making a Difference Foundation, which is a subsidiary of a feminist international. It's called Ending Violence Against Women International is the organization, right? That funded this study. And in order to be able to participate in this study, police agencies had to put their officers, their dedicated sexual assault investigators, through training. Okay. And the training involved a number of things. Okay. So the training involved training these officers that if a complainant remembers every detail perfectly, that's consistent with rape. If a complainant makes shit up, that's consistent with rape. If a complainant misremembers or changes their story, that's consistent with rape. If the and also don't ask the complainant the same question more than once in order to avoid getting 2 different answers. Okay. And also suggesting to them that if you even express doubt as to the veracity of the claim, it could be devastating for a genuine victim. You could be literally traumatizing a woman. So don't express any skepticism or doubt, right? And then they said that the only way you can verify that a claim, that you can categorize a complaint as false, is if a recantation is not enough. Okay. Finding no evidence for the complaint is not enough. Okay. It actually has to be the result of a fact-based investigation that determines that the complainant was making shit up or lying about it. Okay.
Right. You'd have to prove she was lying in order for it to count.
Yeah. And on top of that, they said to these cops who were doing the training in preparation for this study, prosecutors don't generally pursue charges against women who make false complaints. So it's probably a waste of your time to actually try to do a fact-based investigation to determine whether or not a complaint is false.
Right.
It's a waste of police time and resources because it's not going to end in a prosecution, right?
Yeah,
okay, so after all of this training, they found that 7% of rape allegations made to these police agencies were categorized as false, and they claim that that number's low. And Data Gone Odd and I both agree. I'm surprised they could categorize so many, given the parameters that they were stuck working with, right? That 7%, they're like, oh, that's so low, right? Yeah, no, that's like literally, you're telling the police, don't bother looking for for exculpatory evidence. Don't bother asking the complainant any difficult questions. Especially because it could traumatize them. Also, don't investigate it backwards to find out that whether the complaint is false, because nobody's going to prosecute this bitch anyway.
Oh
right?
shit! Just a second. I just realized something.
What?
The fundraiser is disabled. That's why we
What?
haven't been getting any donations for the last 2 days.
Oh
Just
my
a
God.
second. Let me
Just
fix
go
that.
fix it.
All right, there we
Is
go.
that going to take a while? Oh, okay. So
No,
now
no,
it's
it
on.
shouldn't take a while, but I
All right.
apologize to everyone who I directed to the fundraiser.
Mm.
Because yeah, it works now. Okay, so go ahead and
So
put your donations
are
through.
people?
But what I'm
were-
saying, is 7%.
What did you want to say, Brian?
I was
hey,
just
what?
asking if there are people who tried to donate while it was disabled. Is it just like in queue, or does it just bounce back and tell them, "I'm sorry, you can't because it's not working right now"?
Usually it just doesn't work.
Okay.
But I noticed that a couple people actually went through the contribute what you want option. So I'm like, why are they doing that? And then I looked at this and I'm like, oh, it's disabled. Sorry guys. And I wanted to put a shout out to Anchor P, who gave us $50, and Phil at who gave us 200. And again, I'm sorry if you went there and you're like, why can I not put money through this? Well, that explains why nobody was donating for the last 2 days.
Okay.
All right. Sorry, guys. Continue, Karen.
Okay. Okay, so we have a situation, right, where 7% of rape complaints are found to be false when you actually train police officers to do everything in their power to not try to figure out whether a complaint is false.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
they still found 7%.
7 fucking percent.
I mean, that's
still
like when
still
like they
3.5 times
Yeah.
what feminists are claiming it is.
Yeah,
well,
that-
also, if you compare that 7% to the ones that are provably true, then you're looking at 50% are provably true and 50% are provably false.
Yeah, well, of the provable one, yeah.
Yeah, because everybody else is in a freaking gray area of not being able to be proved one way or the other. So it's
Yeah,
like,
but
well,
like I said, those are all supposed to go back into the big bucket of rapes that actually happened.
Yeah,
right?
it just
well,
means
no,
that the
we
men
need
got
to
away
rescue
with
them.
it. It just means men got away with it, basically.
No, and actually, all of the cases, I think it's like 60% or something of cases that go to trial result in conviction, and 40% result in acquittal. All that 40%, right? They were all guys who got away with it too.
I'm in an argument
wait.
with somebody on Twitter, or I don't know if the argument has gone any further, but she went right out of the gate with showing another one of those articles, which is the new initiative for removing due process for men, essentially. And I'm like, these initiatives are why the greatest rate, the criminal accusation with the greatest rate of false incarceration is sexual assault, or
Yeah.
the spectrum of sexual assault. Look at the Innocence Project and look at how many men are exonerated from sexual assault crimes.
Oh yeah, no, and like 50% of the DNA secured exonerations are for some form of sexual assault, right?
Alleged, false, yeah.
Yeah, convictions, right?
Mm-hmm.
But 75% have a sexual assault element to them, right? So think about David Milgaard, right? He wasn't just convicted of rape. He was convicted of rape and murder. Think about Stephen Truscott. He wasn't just sentenced to hang for rape at age 14. He was sentenced to hang for rape and murder, right? And so even looking at it, half of the false convictions, right, for murder or that include things like murder.
Karen?
Karen? Did something happen to you?
She was saying murder, and then there was a dramatic pause.
And then she
I think-
disappeared into it. Well, essentially what she's saying is
she's still in the group with us, but she's not talking, so I don't know what's going on. But thank you,
Ooh.
Bill Durham, for your subscription. Thank you for joining the Thought Patrol. All right. So I don't know where Karen is, but yeah.
Okay,
So anyway, go ahead, Alison.
Well, essentially, don't listen to these people. The crime with the greatest likelihood of ending in conviction falsely is rape or sexual assault, or something related, like a murder with like a sexual assault component. So it's the idea that, and this individual, the nonsense she's spewing is just incredible. I wonder if she's responded to me. I'm just gonna fill the air until Karen gets back.
That's okay. Well, I could mention
Okay,
something.
so yeah, no, but okay. So anyway, so she posts this article, and this police officer says in the article, as a police officer, you want to know who, what, where, when, how, but sometimes you need to step back and think about if the victim is being treated respectfully.
What?
That individual police officer needs to be fired. The victim, she's already decided the outcome before an investigation has occurred. And then I also added, these kinds of initiatives are to blame why sexual assault. The article in question is unfounded rates start to fall in cities across Canada, which when I read it, it seems like it's just a bureaucratic thing. So they had a case, police could put rape cases into unfounded, or cases in general into unfounded. And they might have been classifying it erroneously. So they created another classification and put it in that. And it's like, well, that's just bureaucracy, shuffling paper. But the feminists have heralded this as a great success in combating rape. But the thing is that this stuff, first of all, it doesn't combat rape, although it's good to get those the rape kits tested, because there have been convictions overturned when DNA evidence has been tested. But in this case, it's I'm just going to finish what I'm doing here, Karen, and then you can come in. So, and then I got into this back and forth with this feminist, Sunshine's P4411. And I said, these kinds of initiatives are to blame for why sexual assault cases that result in imprisonment of innocent men are massively overrepresented at the Innocent Project. Disgusting. That's pretty ridiculous. After all, victims come in to report crimes all the time. This is her responding. Victims of assault, robbery, as well as rape. Victims of everything but rape are treated as victims. Rape victims are treated like criminals.
What?
This should satisfy your own rage against women. And this is my response. How is it that the largest number of innocent men are convicted and incarcerated for crimes they didn't commit, are incarcerated for alleged sexual assaults? Get over yourself and your victim complex.
Yeah.
Yes, it's like this is unrefutable. It's irrefutable.
No, and you can make the argument, and I think several people have, and I acknowledge it, right? That, well, it's going to be serious crimes that the Innocence Project is going to be looking at, right? So they're not going to be looking at, trying to exonerate somebody who was convicted of petty theft or anything like that. Okay, but that means rape is treated as a serious crime. Sexual assault is treated as a serious crime, right? About 50% of the exonerations involve a homicide, and about 50% of them only involve a sexual assault, right? And then about 25% of cases that involve more than one crime also involve a sexual assault. So if it's a rape homicide, if it's a home invasion, grievous bodily harm homicide, right? Like if it's some kind of really aggravated crime, right? there's a sexual assault element to it, that's part of essentially half of the exonerations that have occurred that weren't only sexual assault.
Yes. So it's like this is
If it's
not
that hard to fucking convict a guy, and if it's not taken seriously, why did we see in Canada, in wonderful Canada, wonderful peacenik, polite, forgiving, turn the other cheek, Justin Trudeau has nice hair Canada, right? Why was one of the last people sentenced to death in this country a 14-year-old boy who was wrongfully convicted of raping and murdering a classmate? Who was exonerated. He had his death sentence commuted because of his youth, his extreme youth. And then he served his entire life sentence and then got out of prison after 25 years, right? And then was exonerated at age 60.
That's freaking like that. I listen to that and that horrifies and disgusts me. And I look at these initiatives to make it so that women.
So it would be easier to hang him.
Yeah, it would be easier to hang him and he never gets out. And it's just like, at what point do you just get over yourself? Like that's what I said to this woman on Twitter. At what point do you have said that rape victims are treated like criminals? Well, no, they aren't.
No.
They are not.
Oh no, they're frequent. Like I will again give the devil its due, right? I have heard recordings of police interviews with certain complainants who come from certain types of communities, right? So communities where there's like a lot of drug use, there's a lot of prostitution, there's a lot of violence, there's a lot of gang activity, there's a lot of
alcoholism.
Yeah, alcoholism, there's a lot of everything, right? And the police are not necessarily very sympathetic when they're taking a statement. That doesn't necessarily mean that the police are not willing to actually investigate the crime. But there have been cases, like, because I wouldn't be very sympathetic if I was dealing with somebody who was a drug addict and an alcoholic and a prostitute and and had all of these other problems and came from a community like that and had a known criminal history, right? I would not approach an interview the same way I would approach, like, sort of a 14-year-old girl, middle class girl who told me she was walking home one day and got jumped or something like that, right? And she has good grades and all of that, right? Like I would be looking. Number one, I would be looking for whether it's genuine in both cases, but I would be treating these two individuals differently in order to get to the bottom of it. Right? Just like I treat my children differently when they misbehave, I talk to them differently because they're different individuals and it takes a different approach as a parent. Right? But I'm willing to accept that the police sometimes drop the ball, that the police sometimes have prejudices, that the police sometimes get it wrong.
No, it's not possible. Police are always flawless.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, so are they supposed to be freaking perfect? And who's preventing? Stop it, Doug. Who's preventing women from reporting to police? Is it the police themselves, or is it the people who harp on and on and on in the media about how complainants are treated like criminals. Not every complainant is treated like a criminal.
I think most aren't, to be
Yeah.
honest. And in
Like
particular,
the
I don't.
complainants that are treated like criminals are generally have a criminal history.
You see, that here, one of the problems is that rape doesn't really. The problem is that forcible sex, like forced sex, doesn't actually show the kinds of physical symptoms as say an assault
Yeah,
or
getting beaten or yeah.
getting beaten, and unless it did involve getting beaten. And that's the truth. Like they did a study that you can't distinguish between rough sex and rape in terms of the physical
Oh,
effects.
actually, the study found you can't tell the difference between normal sex and rape. They didn't even distinguish that it was rough sex and rape.
Okay,
They
fair
were
enough.
just-
Thank you for the correction.
They were just like, yeah, normal sex and rape show up as the same on a rape kit
Okay, yeah.
most of the time.
So it's a crime that leaves no evidence.
No
except
evidence of a
people's-
crime.
Yeah, no evidence of a crime.
Just evidence of a potentially legal act.
So
This is what frickin' Naomi Wolf flipped her shit on me about, right? Oh, you're a rape apologist too? And I was like, most of the evidence, the physical evidence in any given rape is evidence of a legal act, an act that is like literally people have consensual sex millions of times a day across the globe. There are millions of acts of consensual sex every fucking day across the globe, right? And I would hazard to guess that the vast majority of people, right, have had way more consensual sex than non-consensual sex. Right? I suppose I could try to put a number on the amount of times I have consensually engaged in sexual activity. It'd probably be in like the tens of thousands. Right? And I had one time when two older boys tried to circumvent my consent when I was like 15, before I'd gotten my first period.
Sorry, I'm just a little out of it today.
And I'm looking at like this is me speaking as somebody who has had more sexual partners than I can possibly keep track of as well, right? Some of them on very brief acquaintance. Like I'm not one of these people who's like, yeah, no, I got married to the first man who had sex with me. No, I'm like, I don't know, maybe call me a floozy, right? I've had a lot of sexual partners, like somewhere between 60 and 100 sexual partners, right? And I had a problem once with two guys.
Okay.
All right. So the point is, for people who don't remember, the fact is we don't know how many false allegations are made, but feminists will assert that any allegation that is not proven to be a lie must be an actual rape that took place. And there are some, I don't think it's a good idea to cite the study and say 40% of rape claims are false. I've heard some people say it, but then I usually intervene and say, dude, I don't know that we know that for sure, but we do know that you don't know. But the only thing we can go by at the very least is just rely on due process. If the guy was found innocent, then that's it. We don't talk about it anymore. He's found innocent. He may have been someone that got away with it, but it's highly likely that there just wasn't enough evidence to convict, and that's it. I wouldn't even go so far as to say that that means that the girl was lying or making a false allegation. But in that area of information that we can never know, we have to accept that it's possible that a woman could make a false allegation. And the fact that if she does, the entire system comes down on a guy, it actually encourages women to make false allegations. So maybe the problem isn't how often it happens, but that there is a system in place that essentially backs her up on that. And I don't know, people, it's not gunfire. This is Chicago, but those are fireworks.
Well, okay,
So-
I would add to that, right? Like we don't, with other crimes, we don't actually gauge the severity by the prevalence, right? So we don't say, oh, well, shoplifting is much more common than murder, so shoplifting is the much more serious offense. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
We don't do that.
We
So,
live in a
I mean,
shoplifting culture.
Even if rape or sexual assault is 100 times more common than a false allegation of sexual assault, that doesn't mean that false allegations of sexual assault are nothing to worry about. Otherwise, we shouldn't worry about murder, because murder is pretty uncommon. Like, my lawnmower went missing last summer, and my kid's bike did too. Right? And nobody in this house has been murdered yet. So I'm thinking that stealing lawnmowers and bicycles is much more serious a problem than murder. We shouldn't really worry about murder. It's
Right.
nothing to be concerned about.
Right. And yeah, false allegations is, when it comes to rape, I think that it is a men's issue because it's an issue of due process, and it's something that, I mean, you know, it's a problem for men. So, but anyway, he didn't actually.
And it's a problem. It's a problem for men because rape is considered wrongly considered to be something that men do to women.
Yeah.
Right. And like every single situation, domestic violence, all that other stuff, right? Like every single situation where women are considered to be coming into conflict with men, even the wage gap and stuff like that, right? Where women are considered to be the victims of men. Men in tech are like an old boys club, and it's like this pervasive misogyny, and it scares women off and all of that stuff, right? That's where society is willing to bend or break the rules to create what they consider to be progress, right? So what we've seen is 40 years of rape reform law, reform in quotes, in air quotes, that erodes due process. We see things like temporary restraining orders that are you can get in an ex parte hearing, right? Even if these laws themselves are written to be gender neutral, right? They were enacted specifically to protect women from men, right? So even that that case, it was a Supreme Court of Canada decision that came down in, I believe it was 2010, RVJA, right? Where I'll get into a little bit of the details. Like, okay, so, in the course of marital relations one evening, that's how the Supreme Court decision actually opens. In the course of marital relations one evening, or conjugal relations rather, J.A. and his common law wife were engaging in kinky, hot, sweaty, bondage style sex. They had agreed in advance to the various activities that they were going to do. At one point, J.A. choked her out, unconscious, and when she woke up 3 minutes later, there was a dildo in her bum and she was tied up. And then she woke up and he untied her and removed the dildo, and then they continued to have hot, sweaty, kinky bondage sex for the rest of the evening. Okay, and all of this was agreed to in advance. And then a couple months later, they get into an epic end of the relationship fight. And JA says, if you leave me, I'm going to seek custody of our son. So then she goes to the police and she says, well, okay. So, like, I agreed to the hot, sweaty, kinky sex, and I agreed to being choked out, and I agreed to being tied up, but I wasn't bargaining for that dildo up my bum. So he raped me. Okay. So then he's convicted. Okay. Then he appeals because he claims he never went outside the scope of her consent, right? But it was the appeal court overturned the conviction. He was released. But the appeal court was like, is it actually legally possible to consent in advance to sexual activities that will occur while you're unconscious?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it went up to the Supreme Court, right? And okay, the appeal court and the Supreme Court both agreed in terms of the finding of fact before the court that she lied in her statement to police, that she lied on the stand, that she had agreed to everything, including the dildo up her bum, in advance, right? That he had never gone outside the scope of her consent, right? The Supreme Court ruled that even though her state of mind was never one that was not of consent, because her state of mind was interrupted by unconsciousness, her consent was vitiated under the law. Okay, and the dissenting opinion said, we created consent law to protect women from sexual acts they don't want, not sexual acts they might want to participate in. So the people who thought the conviction should remain overturned, that the guy should go free, they said, these laws were designed to protect women.
Okay, I just want to clarify something. I don't actually go out of my way to do anything touristy on these trips.
Oh my God, I know you don't, but you do some touristy things. I was just commenting on the fact that you go and enjoy yourself, and I'm a hermit.
Okay. It's just the thing is that usually if I'm doing something touristy, it's because I'm doing something in the time that I need to recover from jet lag, or I have to fill time between events.
I don't know why you're concerned with this. You seem to recharge by like going and walking around. Believe me, I know. When we talk, when you're stressing out and we talk on Skype, you're pacing around your house, right? I'm sitting on my sofa, right? When I need to recharge, I just go somewhere where I can be alone and hang out and like not actually physically exert myself or see anybody.
All right, fair enough. Sorry, it might just be my exhaustion. I'm just fixating on weird stuff. Anyway, so guys, the fundraiser is still ongoing. The amount that I put on it is 30,000. It's right in between the 20 and 40,000 projected shortfall. So if you want to go and help us out and get some great stuff associated with the conference, like live streams or remote tickets, then go to feedthebadger.com. I really like to see this happen again. That's the thing, if you do support this and we can make it happen while not incurring a financial loss, then we could potentially do it again. Of course, if we do incur a financial loss, it won't necessarily be possible again. So please do go to feedthebadger.com and throw some shekels in the hat. I absolutely promise I will not do anything touristy with this money.
She's got her own money to do that with anyway, so whatever.
Yeah, I need to pay myself a bit of a salary, so I have enough money to take a subway down to the wharf. All right, go ahead.
It's
I
not
also,
a wharf,
I
it's
just,
the river.
I just wanted to reiterate for the people listening. Okay, so this precedent, this is now law in Canada, right? So if you wake your husband up with morning head, if you kiss your wife in her sleep or spoon her or rub your erect penis against her bottom in the middle of the night while you're just snuggling, right? All of that's illegal now. All of that's a criminal act now. And it's been instantiated through Bill C-51. It's been instantiated in our statutes, right?
Mhm.
That once you lose consciousness, unlike with a surgery, unlike even with an agreement between friends that if I, when you go to a party, if I pass out, can you make sure I get home safely, right? Well, if this precedent applied to that, then your friend who hauled you to a cab and dragged you into your house and put you to bed, they'd be guilty of kidnapping, right? But all of this doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you agreed to in advance. The moment you fall unconscious, your consent has been vitiated. All to protect a woman who made a factually false complaint to police. All to because she didn't want her partner to try to get custody of their young son. Right? That's where we're at here. And the Supreme Court knows that the allegation she originally made is false. They just changed the law to make it so that her allegation would be legally valid and put him back in prison. So that's where we're at.
Yeah, I know
where
that's where we're at. We're at a point where essentially, if a woman decides it's rape, and they'll change the laws to accommodate her. That's unbelievable. I just, why? If you want the Bronze Age, this is how we get the frickin' Bronze Age. Okay, can we listen to more of the guy in the bowler
Yeah.
a little
hat?
bit more of the guy.
Okay, so
I've been talking so as to avoid listening to this asshole. But
I'm sorry, we're gonna have to probe this asshole. I think you guys just broke a new record. We are 1 hour and 4 minutes into the show, and we have gotten through 15 seconds of this video. I swear to God.
Maybe I
And we
should
didn't
feel
even
more
hear-
self-conscious about walking
Didn't
around
even-
cities in the
I
future.
you
didn't-
bring up rape. You bring up rape, and it's
Yeah, I guess that, but we didn't even hear his response to the argument that he was putting, the straw man that he's about to tear down that MRA supposedly claims. So let's get into that.
Credited study. When a woman reports a rape, sometimes there isn't enough information or evidence to prosecute, sometimes she changes her mind about pressing charges, and sometimes the guy is found not guilty.
Can't press
All
her.
of those
She
added
can't-
up.
I'm sorry, in Canada, and I think in many jurisdictions in the United States, she can't change her mind about pressing charges. Criminal complainants don't press charges. The prosecutor does, the police do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's called prosecutorial discretion. And that's why, mandatory arrest policies came about, because police used to respect a woman's desire to not quote end quote press charges, right? Which amounts to I don't want to make a police statement. I don't want to make a complaint to police and have them press charges, right?
Okay, can I point out a flaw in your logic, Karen?
What?
If we don't get through this, we're doing it again. So let's.
Oh my fucking God. Okay. But I just want to say it's not up to women to press charges or not, right? The only thing a woman can do who doesn't want to charge the rapist after she complains to police, the only thing she can do is refuse to cooperate.
I feel like I've just run a freaking marathon.
All right.
All right,
Oh God, I'm so fucking exhausted. I think.
Continue.
All right, let's move on.
Come on.
Yeah.
All you have to do is sit there and listen. Okay.
Is where they get that number. If you go to the police to report that your bike was stolen and they don't find enough evidence to pursue it, That doesn't change the fact that your bike was stolen.
Actually, if you didn't actually have your bike stolen and you told people your bike was stolen, then that would still happen. They wouldn't find it, and they wouldn't find the person who stole it. And
Yeah,
if you just lost it or
it's-
forgot that you left it at your friend's house, or you forgot where you hooked it up, and then you reported it as stolen, but it turned out it was actually where you left it this whole time, that also means it wasn't stolen. So your
Okay,
analogy
well,
is bad and you should feel bad.
the analogy is bad and he should feel bad because you know what? When you report your car stolen, what does the insurance company do?
Yeah, they pay you.
No, they don't. They pay.
I
They
don't know.
maybe pay you if you can prove that it was stolen.
They investigate you
Mhm.
to ensure that you're not engaging in insurance fraud.
Right.
Well,
Right.
but you see, Karen, rape victims are treated like criminals.
Yeah,
Even
I know.
though the only thing that the insurance company is going to lose out if you lie about your car being stolen is some money.
If my house burns down, right? There's going to be a whole team of forensic fucking fire experts sifting through the rubble to determine whether I set the fire myself to collect the insurance money. Right? And they're going to look at the rubble and decide whether the big screen TV I claim I had was actually like a 40-inch one or whether it was a 27-inch one. Right? They're going to look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, if there's some kind of potential negative repercussion, they're probably going to investigate whether or not what you're saying is true. But of course, the only negative repercussion to a rape claim or alleged rape claim is that a
Is
man
to
might
the
lose his
accused,
entire
yeah.
life. Yeah.
The accused. He might lose his entire fucking life and nobody fucking cares. Right?
Nobody gives a shit.
Yeah, but like go try and make an insurance claim, right? Fucking try. Like my significant other during a blackout drove across a thing. He was running out of gas. Of course, everything was blacked out in the entire frickin' city grid, right? The entire grid. And he was trying to get back home and he was running out of gas. So he went through a side street using Google Maps. He didn't realize there was something called a bus trap. Separating these two little neighborhoods. And so he was following a pickup truck that just drove right over this thing. And he didn't know that it was there because there were no lights and no boom gates. Nothing was functioning, right? And he went into the bus trap and had all kinds of front end damage to his car because in the pitch dark he followed Google Maps, right? And the insurance company wouldn't cover it. The city wouldn't even consider changing the system. There's only like 3 of these things, all in very low income neighborhoods in the entire city. And you can guarantee if some rich guy drove his BMW into one, it would on the south side, it'd be gone in like a second. But yeah, the city wouldn't take any responsibility for it. Right? Like this is a thing in the middle of a residential street that is designed to damage your car. And they're like, "Oh yeah, no, you should have known. You should have been able to see in the pitch dark when the flashing lights and the boom gates aren't working, and should have been able to." Yeah. So I'm looking at it. They wouldn't reimburse him for that, right? He damaged his knee, when the car went into it and his knee hit the steering column. And yeah, they wouldn't even consider our complaint. Right? And it's like, okay, so yeah, the system sometimes is not very friendly. Oh, well, there you go.
Okay. Next clip.
That is not a false allegation. Numerous studies have been done on this, and all of them have found that false rape allegations occur between 2 and 10% of the time.
Whoa, what's going on? Is there thunder rolling over there?
There's thunder and my dogs are barking. I'm sorry.
Thunder. Okay. I'm going to play the rest of this. I'll go back a little bit. So he's got his own studies, which of course are better studies. So
Bike was stolen. That is not a false allegation. Numerous studies have been done on this, and all of them have found that false rape allegations occur between 2 and 10% of the time, with the largest study finding 6.8%, meaning that a woman is only making it up 6.8% of the time. Believe it or not, but that's
no! It means at least 6.8% of the time. At least!
yeah. Again, there's that big gray area of we just don't know because we couldn't prove it either way. You know, it's an interesting world we live in where men have to prove that not only are they assumed guilty until proven innocent, but then on top of that, if they're falsely accused, they would have to pursue another line, another sort of path to prove that the reason why they've been found innocent and yet were run through the ringer is because a woman used the system against him. We don't know the exact number. It's impossible to get that number, but this guy wants it to be 6.8% of the time because apparently he thinks women are just better than men. And he knows better, hence the name of the channel. Okay, let's continue.
Of the time. Believe it or not, but that's actually pretty consistent with the false allegation rate for just about every crime, including bicycle theft.
Most index crimes, the false allegation rate is 2%.
Mm-hmm.
In fact,
if the best study he wants to accept says that false allegations of rape are 6.8%, then that's 3.5 times
higher.
Yeah.
At least. I think that's the reason why he wants to accept it, because it's closer in line with those other statistics. But I think that rape is unique in how we treat it and how it's been politicized as a crime. There are no activist groups out there trying to change the laws around bicycle theft. So
no, there aren't. There are no activist groups who are like saying it's unjust for insurance companies to try and figure out whether you actually faked your car getting stolen or your house burning down. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. All right, continuing on.
Out the numbers, as a man, you are more likely to be the victim of a rape than you are to be falsely accused of a rape. It does happen, it's awful.
Yes, you are more likely to be a victim of a rape than to be falsely accused of a rape, right? And that's because women are rapey. Women are almost as rapey as men. Maybe they're just as rapey as men, right? And their targets, when they're heterosexual, which is most women, is men, right? But I don't think that's what this guy is talking about. I think he's talking about you're more likely to be raped by another man, because that's the only rape I understand is the male perpetrated kind, right? Than to be falsely accused. And I'm sorry, but I think regardless of how common or rare something is, I think we should be able to have a higher standard of fucking behavior from our criminal justice system than from our rapists.
Oh my. Okay, so I'm going to do another shout out for the fundraiser, www.feedthebadger.com. Please go there and help us. Well, not to help us, but just go purchase an option so we can meet our sales goal and make sure that this conference is fully funded and we're actually able to do it again in the future or do something similar in the future. So go do that. I want to thank that we've had a couple people put something through, and every little bit helps. So I want to thank Prit M. I don't even okay. Thank you for $5. And Schrodinger's cat gives us $10. So please do go there
Or
and
did
put some
he?
more. Or did he? Yeah. He gave us $10, or maybe he didn't give us $10. Who knows?
We won't know until we open the box.
No. I think he did give us $10 though. I have a feeling. All right. So go to feedthebadger.com and help us out. Oh, I shouldn't use the term help us out. Help us all out. Because, I mean, you guys want to have another Badger event like this in the future, far future. I mean, I could never do this every year.
No, but we will do it again. I think this is going to be huge. It's going to be huge. So
It's
Yeah, it's
gonna
gonna
great.
be
be huge, right? But if I
Tremendous.
ever volunteer to help something like this again, help out with something like this again, please hit me over the head with a baseball bat, tie me up, and keep me away from my email where I was typing yes, I'll do it. It's what I'm saying is it's a lot of work. It's a lot of freaking nitpicky, stressful, difficult work.
Yeah.
It's not like making videos. It's not even like making those scripted videos that you all remember that I used to do, but I don't do so much anymore because I've been busy doing this and busy dealing with some health issues and all of that, right? Like, but it's just like this is like it's
Well, I mean,
it's not something I would choose to do for a living. I wouldn't do it for money. I would only do it for love.
There you go.
Okay, there you go. But so it is a lot of work, a mind-numbing amount of work. The amount of emails and dealing with issues. For example, today I learned that somebody purchased a $360 ticket and thought that included accommodation. And I'm like, no.
Well, I
So
mean, like, if he wants to sleep on the sidewalk, that's cool, but
yeah, but so it's like you have to deal with stuff like that, and you just look at it and you're like, I don't know how that miscommunication happened, and you have to say
yeah.
miscommunication. I'm sorry for the misunderstanding that you missed all of the indication that the ticket is separate from the accommodations plus tickets. But okay,
Mhm.
let's see what we can do with this.
Yeah.
Oh
Okay.
God, please put
Let
some
me
money in the
refund
hat.
you your regular ticket and give you an accommodations.
If you're even just thinking about putting $5 at Feed the Badger, please go do it. I would really appreciate it. I'm sorry that I'm so tired and low energy right now. I'm even more low energy than normal. I think
Oh,
I've
and
been
I'm fucking miserable. I'm looking out my window like it's a complete freaking downpour right now. And I have like a river of water running down my front window because my gutters, which I haven't been able to get to since winter ended back in like at the end of May. They're like full of dirt and growing trees. There are literally trees growing out of my eaves troughs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so all of the water from the roof is just pouring out out of the over the edge of the eaves troughs, down my front window, and all that does is remind me that that's yet another thing that I haven't been able to get to. And it's probably going to snow next week, so I guess I'm boned.
Why is it going to snow next? What?
Hey, I'm in Alberta. We've had snow every month of the year within living memory. And
Oh man.
yeah, and they're
Well, northern
like,
Alberta specifically.
Let me
yeah,
put it this way. I'm so fucking busy. I don't even know where to begin with it. Even explaining how busy I am.
We could
I
we,
can't-
we could
and I
begin with the
can't-
video. We can
Maybe
go
I
back
could
to
do
the
it in
we've had
interpretive.
no, we can't, Brian. We've had so much rain. We've had rain every fucking day.
Oh my god, I can hear your misery, Brian. Okay, let's get a little bit
We've
more
had
into
rain
this.
every fucking day for the last 3 months.
Be that as
okay?
it may,
Which means I can't leave my house without being eaten alive by mosquitoes.
Mm-hmm.
okay, but that's not getting this video done. So please,
All right, fine.
Jesus Christ. Okay,
That's not
it is a
happening
testament
today.
to our endurance that we have gotten this far. I think everybody is fucking tired. And
I'm just trying to avoid having to listen to this guy anymore.
I hear you.
I don't know if you noticed that.
I
noticed.
actually take the long view. I say, okay, if we get through it, we're done. We never have to listen to him again. So can we
Yeah,
just get through it?
Yeah, that's not happening today, but we can like try to plug on a little bit. I mean, yeah, let's just go further, I suppose. Okay.
Awful, but it's very, very rare. Men often feel like they have no choice when it comes to conceiving a child. Once the woman is pregnant, all decisions are left to her, which makes sense on multiple levels. Biologically and evolutionarily, she has to invest much more and has much more to lose. But it also makes legal sense.
The father invests the majority of the financial resources in the child.
Okay, yeah, no, this is the thing, right? And this is what I've argued before, is that the reason we're so much more offended by when a man rapes a woman than when a woman rapes a man is because she has the greater biological investment and risk. That's like, and the reason why women tend to react more negatively, right, when they feel violated, regardless of whether their consent was violated or not. The reason why women are more likely than men to recontextualize their sexual experiences in the direction of I was taken advantage of, I was violated, right? Which is a common trope in romance novels, all of those things, right? The reason why it's women who have a problem with understanding the concept of consent is because there's all of this biological and therefore psychological baggage attached to how they feel when they regret a sexual encounter. Right? Because when they regret a sexual encounter, when a man regrets a sexual encounter, his biology is telling him, oh, yeah, it's no big deal. Right? Because up until recently, the recent legal innovations, in terms of child support and stuff like that, right, wasn't really that big a disaster for a man, right? Even if he ended up in a shotgun wedding, he was still getting an opportunity to get his genes into the gene pool, and he wasn't really expected to do any more than he would normally have to, right?
Well,
okay.
But as a counterpoint,
but for a woman, that biological, right, and that biological investment and risk has existed forever.
Okay, well, as a counterpoint, historically, women were considered to be more sexually avaricious. It's one of the reasons why I think, like, the concept of the harm, the sexual harm done to women, wasn't as prevalent in the legal situation. It was mostly about property and all of that stuff. I mean, part of it is that a lot of that would have been enacted on a tribal level. So if you violated one tribe's women, you'd have all their tribesmen after you, and it wouldn't even raise to the level of they wouldn't even allow it to go into a situation of court. But I mean, there have been times when women have been perceived to be more sexual, and like if you think about it, there was a particular time during like the end of the Roman Empire where there was these progressive waves of barbarians invading, and they had been Christianized for a while then, and there was a Christian teacher who was talking to the women in his congregation, and they were concerned about being raped, and he said, well, it's not a sin if you don't enjoy it. So there even back then there was that sort of sense that
Oh
yeah, you got some for
no,
women.
well, okay,
But
it's
but
not it's not a sin that you participated in if you don't enjoy it, right? This is the thing, right? Okay, you got the biblical verses, right?
mhm.
Okay, so in what is it, Leviticus or whatever, right? Where they talk about if a woman is within the city walls and a man comes upon her and no one hears her crying out, right? Then they'll both be brought before the gates of the city and they'll be stoned to death, right? Well, yeah, that's because she didn't cry out. So they were like engaging in adultery, right? And if a man comes upon a woman in the countryside, an unpromised woman, an unbetrothed woman, she's single, she's not pledged to a man, right? A woman of virtue in the countryside, and they, in quotes, they are caught, right? Then he has to marry her and he has to pay her father restitution. Okay. And then if a woman alleges that a man came upon her and she cried out, but no one was there to hear her, right, in the countryside, then she is to be considered innocent and he's to be stoned to death. Okay, so we have three very different situations, right? We have adultery where both get punished. We have a situation where they are caught having sex. She's not promised to anybody else, and that's a shotgun wedding. And that the wording of it, and this is something that big biblical scholars have like argued a lot about, right? Because this is the clause, right, in the Bible that feminists have held up as, women were forced to marry their rapist, right? But when they actually say, if a man comes upon a woman and seizes her, right, and they are caught, right? The word for seize is the same word used when talking about Potiphar's wife, right? She seized Joseph, right, and tried to seduce him, right? It's not the word for actually violating somebody's consent, right? It's a word that is about seduction, not a word that's about rape.
Okay, well, I completely forgot where I was going with this. Brian, can we just skip ahead to something a little bit more exciting than this? Because I think we have beaten this to death, buried it, dug it up, beat it some more, pissed on it.
Oh well, all
Why
I
the
gotta
Supreme
say,
Court
all I
said
gotta
that should.
say is we have a Bible that says if a man and a woman are in the hayloft consensually freaking doing their thing, and dad comes up the ladder with a shotgun, right, and runs them both to the altar, right? Feminists have described that situation as women being forced to marry their rapists.
Yeah, I know, because the honest to God truth is that they would never, tribal people would never allow a court of law to adjudicate a rape case. That would require a lot of slit throats and scalps,
Yeah.
to assuage. Okay, so Brian, find something that isn't
I mean,
this
look,
topic.
I don't know why you think there's gonna be some gold nugget of a fantastic argument that you guys can respond to. That like it's all this. This whole video is this.
It's all this
It's
profound
all this.
discomfort with any kind of vulnerability that a man could
Yep.
possibly have.
Yep.
And then turning around and saying that that's toxic masculinity. Okay,
Yep.
well, okay,
So-
knowing better, show us, demonstrate your toxic masculinity
Yeah.
as you define it.
Well, let's get into this here. This could be interesting.
Shouldn't be the case. You know what would solve a lot of these issues and level the reproductive playing field? If men had access to a birth control pill. That's what started the second wave of feminism after all. But paternity traps and even false allegations and domestic violence really only seem to come up during particularly messy divorces. There is no question that the family court system is biased against men. The divorce rate in the United States rose sharply during the 70s and 80s, but has been holding at 40 to 50% for the last few decades.
We'll give him kudos. He actually admits that it's biased. I mean, it's unavoidable now. It's unavoidable. Is that Boris?
No,
Borat.
what?
Borat. Sorry.
Yeah, Borat's barking. Kevin's actually being calm. But he's going to go on to argue that because 91% of divorces are settled out of court, right? Men just aren't fighting.
Yeah, I've heard that one too.
Yeah, no, and it's complete bullshit. So.
All right. Next.
Okay.
Where is he going with this?
Well, he did mention the birth control pill, and he kind of mentioned it as though, like, why aren't you guys working on that?
We are.
And I thought
there
that
are men's rights activists who were.
Yeah,
and
there was talk about male birth control pills multiple times.
And the feminists keep writing pieces about how it's bad, and a feminist organization blocked it, I think, in South America somewhere.
Yeah, because
that was Gossip Hole, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's so funny because they don't seem to understand the causality in all of this conflict. You know, we have these people who don't necessarily call themselves men's rights activists bopping along saying, you know what would be great? A male birth control pill. That would be awesome. I'm going to go do that. And then they come up on a bunch of feminists who say, no, you're not. Squash. And then they go on the internet and they're like, you know what? A bunch of feminists just squashed my men's initiative. And then they get called a men's rights activist and being told, well, why do you hate feminism?
Yeah, I know. And you know what I find interesting is the Betty Friedan, the people essentially in Bucharest at the World Population Summit, which is where Dr. Coutinho was talking about his and I will give you that his discovery did not go anywhere. Not because not because it was blocked, but because it just there were inherent problems with it, right? Right. So his discovery was that he noticed that bulls who ate cottonseed cakes just kept mating with the heifers and not impregnating them, but still mating with them. Right? So it was like, oh, so the males have been rendered sterile, but it hasn't actually affected their libido. Right? As long as there are non-impregnated heifers around, these bulls are still mounting them, right? So he's like, okay, let's do this, right? And then so he proposed his thing. He sort of talked about his preliminary research at this global population summit in Budapest. And Betty Friedan stood up and started chanting, "No male pill, no male pill." Right? And
as one would, you know.
Yeah, and her argument was that women have fought long and hard to be the arbiters of reproduction, to be the sole voice and the sole vote in whether a woman has a child or not. And so they did not think that a man having the capacity to refuse consent to parenthood by some kind of medical intervention was just. Because it wasn't, because birth control is not birth prevention, it's birth control, right? And birth control is for women. Women should be able to have 100% control over whether they have a baby or whether they don't, right? And the man should not have any say over that, right? So, yes, his medical discovery ended up it led to long-term infertility in males in the human trials. So it was abandoned, right? But that does not negate the fact that feminists objected to it, right? Just like the fact that you can buy a condom in a bathroom at a nightclub or in a convenience store or at your grocery store. You can buy a mass-produced condom as a man almost anywhere, right? That does not negate the fact that feminists, when condoms began to be mass-produced because of the rubber industry, right? So you literally went from it being a sheep intestine with a knot tied in the end of it, right? That would cost a prostitute about a month of earnings and had to be washed and reused and all of that, right? When it went from that to being something that could be mass produced because of the new availability of rubber, feminists joined with religious fundamentalists in the US to try to make it so that men could not buy condoms. Why?
Hello?
Because they
Oh, no, she's
said
still talking.
because they said women should be the sole determining voice in terms of conception and childbirth.
Okay. Yes. So they get the causality wrong. So people will go out and pursue a men's rights initiative. They won't call them, and it is a men's rights initiative, but they usually don't call themselves that, and they don't call it that. They just pursue an initiative like, oh, let's create a birth control pill for men. Oh, let's create a domestic violence shelter for men. Let's create a service line for men. And then the feminists come along and say, no. I've actually had an email from a man who has created services for men and cannot advertise them because as soon as he advertises them, the feminists will come and attempt to shut him down. So you watch this, and a lot of these people will then go on the internet or go, there's no real else place to talk about these things, and say, well, feminists are shutting us down. And feminists will swoop on that and say, you just hate feminism, you men's rights activist. Well, yeah, well, fucking yes. You know what? Maybe I do hate your bullshit. And you know why I hate it? You know the real fucking reason why I ended up hating it? Because originally I was just disappointed. Well, I was originally a feminist. My issue was, of course, that women should also be drafted. And I was disappointed with feminism. Eventually, I got very disappointed, disillusioned. I felt betrayed for a long time. Hatred actually didn't come as a result of my men's rights advocacy. It came when I realized that feminists don't care about women either. Feminists literally will say women owe feminism. Well, actually, no, women don't owe feminism anything. Feminism owes women everything. Because you get your power from pretending to advocate for women's issues. And because you get your power for pretending to advocate for women's issues, you have an incredible incentive. Feminists have an incredible incentive of distorting the situation for women. They have become a woman's issues. Feminism has become a woman's issue. And what I mean by that is feminism is the most legitimate claim that I think the existence of feminism is the most legitimate claim that women have to be victims because they are victims or because they are women. Because feminism exploits women. It exploits the individual woman with the expectation that she tithes to sisterhood, that she revoke her own individual and personal agency so that feminism might, I don't know, sometime in the future, give her something via the enforcement of some, I don't know, respecting women. I have no fucking clue. What is it exactly that feminism gives women? Because it seems to me that a woman does something by her own personal fucking initiative, aside from all this crap, legal crap. And I actually read a comment by a woman who laid it out pretty plain. Yeah, the only thing that feminism has ever given women is the ability to legally eviscerate their husbands and boyfriends. And I didn't want that as a woman. This is what this woman said. I didn't want that, and I don't want it. So I don't think that feminism has given me anything. And I actually stand by that. That's not giving somebody something. Giving somebody a gun and saying, hey, you got the right to shoot this guy in the head. That's not a fucking gift.
No.
It isn't.
No.
Feminism has given women nothing. And what? Okay, so I'm supposed to tithe to feminism. This is what I see. A woman succeeds at something, and feminists swoop around her and say, you must tithe to feminism. The reason why you achieved this isn't your own personal initiative. It's because we exist somehow in your sphere. You have to give us our share. That's an awful nice achievement you have, lady. It'd be a shame if it was yanked from your life by us. You know, if you don't pay up some protection money to feminism. And the reason why I started to hate feminism was that, and because I also have an interest in advocating for women's issues. A lot of people who are part of this radio show, that's sort of my shtick. Okay, I always look at the female perspective and advocate for issues that I genuinely feel that women face. And at one point, I realized that making women out to be victims is really damaging. Really damaging. Mm-hmm. So I would explain this to feminists because I was thinking, I understand you're not interested in men's issues. It's okay. You don't have to be interested in the same things that I'm interested in. But you say that you care about women and their benefit, right? You say you advocate for women. Well, here I have something that I can explain to you to show that what you're doing is harmful to women. And you say that's the most important thing, is to make sure that women are benefited and not harmed, right? So I would explain all of this, and they would respond to me with things like, oh, you internalized misogynist. Oh, you, like things like the pick me and all this other shit. So I'm explaining to you how this harms women, and you couldn't give a shit. That's when I started to hate feminism.
No, you just have Stockholm syndrome, or
I
bet your husband your husband beats you and writes your scripts.
They wouldn't even say something like, you know what, I hadn't considered that. Maybe I'm going to go consider how what I'm doing might be harming women. Because I say that I'm an advocate for women's benefit. Maybe I'll go do that and ponder that, chew on it. They didn't even say that. They just started insulting me. And it's like, well, okay, so you don't advocate for men, and you obviously don't advocate for women. So what exactly are you advocating for? And I realized it's a con. What they advocate for is their ideology and their own personal power, and the people who aren't feminist lobbyists or aren't politically connected feminists or politically powerful feminists, the ones who are just on the streets, all they want to be is right. They just want to be able to lord themselves, their self-righteousness over other people. They don't fucking give a shit. And I can forgive them not caring about men. Fine. You don't care about men.
Yeah, well,
But I cannot fucking forgive feminists for not caring about women. And the reason why is because that is what they say gives them their legitimacy. And you know what they really are? They are using women. They're using their so-called advocacy for women to get political power for themselves. They couldn't give a shit. They would kill every woman on the planet in order to maintain their political power in the guise of protecting them all. Oh no, this is another one that had internalized misogyny. We needed to put her down.
Yeah, no, I agree, and it's
But that was a bit of a rant.
yeah,
No,
no,
I'm gonna roll into bed and like die.
oh my god, don't roll into bed just yet and die. I see it in this thing where, there was an actual study, like human trials for a male hormonal birth control pill, right? And it was discontinued halfway through because the adverse effects were extremely severe and extremely prevalent, right? So there were a lot of adverse effects, right? Most of the men in the trial said they wanted to continue with the trial, but the researchers cut the trial off, right? And feminists essentially said, what a bunch of wimpy men whining like man babies about side effects, blah, blah, blah. Right? One of the side effects was like, yeah, 2 years later, like you're still sterile, right? 2 years after going off this shit, you're still sterile, right?
Yeah, it makes you think
Okay.
they don't want men having kids.
Yeah. But okay, I have never seen a feminist pushing Vaseline gel. Anybody listening to this show, you need to go to the a website called the Parsimus Foundation, and the Parsimus Foundation is a kind of a weird nonprofit that deals with, kind of spaying and neutering pets in ways that aren't actually castrating and giving them hysterectomies, right? When they're like juveniles. So essentially, they started off as a nonprofit that was looking into ways of preventing uh, sort of unwanted puppy and kitten populations, but not interfering with the long-term health of pets, right? Okay, this is why I did spay my dog until she had her third heat and was almost 2 years old. It's why I won't castrate my my little Borat. I won't cut off his beautiful symmetrical balls. Because when you fuck with an animal's hormones like that, you're fucking with their health, right? So this Parsimus Foundation, I think it started looking at various ways to prevent unwanted births among pets without interfering with their long-term health, right? They took up a project developed in India called Rysug. Rysug is a polymer injection that it's like a neutral polymer. It's a injection into the vas deferens, which is what they cut when they do a vasectomy, and it doesn't block the escape of sperm, right? Vasectomy blocks the escape of sperm. That's why you end up with issues, long-term adverse effects like prostate problems and stuff like that when you have a vasectomy, right? You don't get that with this because it doesn't actually block the sperm. What it does is the sperm travel through the barrier and get shredded like they were going through a cheese grater, right? So it all just kind of gets flushed through, and then it lasts for up to 10 years, and you reverse it with an injection at the original site of baking soda and water and within a couple of months, your sperm counts are back up to normal, right? So, and you're looking at it like the doctor in India who developed this said in India, having this done costs $10. $10 for 10 years of essentially of 100% reversible non-invasive vasectomy, right? Well, why is a nonprofit funding the human trials in the US and trying to get FDA approval in the US? Well, it's because the pharmaceutical companies would rather sell women a daily pill. They would rather sell men a daily pill. They would rather, why would they want to do like even if you adjusted for the difference in, how much things cost in India versus here, why would they put any money into supporting a technology that would cost a man maybe like $500 for 10 years of protection, when they could, sell a man or kind of birth control that they have to keep paying for month by month, day by day.
Okay, so I really can't go past the hour, so I'm going to do another shill for feedthebadger.com. Get us up over the hump. We passed 26,000, which is good, It's yeah, we did. Okay, yeah. But please do go and give us, put a few shekels in the hat. I want to thank Son S for purchasing a brick. Thank you. I hope well, I don't think you will enjoy your brick, but your brick will be at the convention. Being a brick. So thank you, Sean. And once again, please go to feedthebadger.com. We have some lovely options. I wish I had the energy to do a shill. I'm sorry, guys. I just do not.
Well, we could listen to more of this and
Yes,
do.
let's listen a
Let's
little bit
do.
more.
Let's
Are,
do
are we
one.
gonna have to go back to this? Can we just this be the end?
I don't know. It's up to you. I mean, let me see what I have here on my. Yeah, we could stop after this. I mean, we responded to most of the strongest arguments. I mean, most of it's not really strong. It's like we've been. It's one of those things where if you do like he does half-ass research because he stops when he becomes satisfied with the results, and then he puts it out there like he's done. And if he was somebody who was genuinely curious and genuinely wanted to understand, he would have dug a lot deeper. He would have spoken to MRAs instead of just talking to them like they're not worth his time, or talking about them or around them, and not even like directly to MRAs. He's clearly doesn't even know what an MRA is. He's responding to ideas put out by Davis Serini, apparently. So, or what he believes are those. Anyway, okay. I don't want to.
Next video.
Yeah.
He has to wear horns and a newsboy cap, otherwise he doesn't look like a real MRA.
Yeah.
That's the real dress code there, buddy.
And a tie.
Critical research failure. And a tie. Critical research failure on your head. Okay.
All right. So
there was something I was gonna say. I think mostly what has happened is, here's the thing. How the hell do you judge this, whether or not men or women suffer more? I mean, in terms of actual physical concrete metrics, it's pretty clearly men. But on the other hand, I don't know if I'd want to live a life in which I actually buy into this victimhood crap. That would suck. Like, I think about it, and
yeah, but the thing is, if you're a woman, you don't have to buy into it.
Yeah, that's true. You can overcome
my grandmother. My grandmother was born in 1909. Right? She was a career woman. She had a grade 8 education. She left home quite early.
No, I'm calling bullshit on that. If she was born in 1909, she was literally chattel from the time she came out of the womb, and she didn't get a job until like 1979. There's no way that she could have been a career woman, because history That's why. Because my teacher's
Yeah,
in school.
her stepfather wasn't very nice to her or to any of her actual full siblings, right?
Oh!
Her father had died, and her mother had remarried, and her stepfather wasn't very nice, and that was one of the reasons she was pulled out of school in grade 8 completely, to help out with the other kids, her step siblings and half siblings on the farm, and work on the farm. But she left home quite early because of the fact that her stepfather was not very nice, right? And then she came to Edmonton and she got a job in a department store. And within a couple of years, she was running an entire floor. And then she started doing accounting, and then she got married to a man who was 8 years younger than her, which was enough to raise eyebrows in those days. And took over running a general store and being postmistress of her town. And, so she worked her entire freaking life. She worked and competed and climbed the greasy pole and, earned this like spectacular government pension and, saved for retirement. And her husband, like she ran the general store and was the postmistress of the town, right? He paved roads in the summer and did a rural mail route on foot in the winter. So he delivered mail to farms through waist-deep snow in the winter. And that was my grandparents. And my grandmother, every freaking time feminism came up, she would just roll her eyes and say, "Why don't those women find something useful to do?"
Well, they sort of. I guess you could say that what they're doing is effective. Perhaps not useful, but it's definitely effective at destroying our society. But regardless, you can't fault them for effectiveness.
Oh yeah, no, they're very
Very effective. But yeah. So
but the very fact that my grandmother, born in 1909, right, could end up managing an entire floor of a freaking department store in her mid-20s with a grade 8 education. Yeah, that doesn't.
no, and it has nothing to do with feminism. You see, that's the thing. Feminism always wants to appropriate all individual women's accomplishments for itself, like some sort of goddamn mafia.
Yeah, Karen, give me a thank you for suffragettes. Otherwise, stop voting and make me a ham sandwich.
Yeah, when it was the suffragists who got the vote. But okay, this is why this guy is so exhausting. He'll talk about a men's issue, and then he'll say basically, well, but what's important here is that I preserve my identity as a man, as an invulnerable man. And then he'll talk about women's issues as if it negates the first thing or is even relevant. Like the question is, why is that relevant? I mean, when I bring up a men's issue in response to a feminist, it's usually because they have asserted that women have it worse. And this is the thing, they gotta maintain that.
It's usually because they've asserted that 98% of domestic violence perpetrators and rapists are men.
So they've essentially you bring it up because they're erasing rape victims and they're erasing domestic violence victims and they're erasing victims of violence. So you bring this up
and they're
and you say,
erasing perpetrators of violence.
yeah, and they're erasing perpetrators. So you bring it up and you're just like, well, you don't erase these people because they, you shouldn't. And you're not going to get anywhere with these social ills if you don't look at the whole problem.
And then they do what started this video, and he says that's just whataboutism.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But here's the
exactly.
thing. But the thing is that it's not whataboutism because you've already brought up the issue of male victims.
No, his
when you present
video
something.
is whataboutism, though.
Yeah,
This
I know,
whole
but
video
you've
is.
when you assert that men are less likely to be, or whatever, male victims are something, you have already brought the topic up, and people speaking to a topic you've already brought up is not whataboutism. It's trying to clarify your misrepresentation of reality.
Well,
When
and
my point is,
also speaking to somebody saying 98% of rapists are men, right? And saying actually no, that's not the case. That's not whataboutism either.
no, it's not. It's just correcting someone's facts. But my point is, he responds to a men's issue not by saying, you know what, that's bad and let's do something about it. He responds to it by attempting to reestablish his equilibrium, his identity equilibrium. So, yeah, men have issues, but women really are the ones that suffer, or really are the victims, or really are the weak ones, or really are the vulnerable ones. Because what's important here isn't actually helping female victims, because ignoring half the data is going to guarantee that you're not going to be able to help female victims or reduce the number of them. What's important here is not that. What's important here is that I get to maintain my particular idea of what a man is. That's what this guy's doing throughout this entire thing. Not, you can't just be like, "Yep, this is an issue. We should deal with it. Let's move on. This is
This
another
is
issue. We should deal with it. Okay, what's the next issue? Yep, this is also an issue that we should know. This is an issue, but how can I drag something up to reframe everything in such a way that I'm emotionally comfortable with it and it doesn't threaten my identity as a
Oh,
man?"
of course, 3/4 of suicides are male, but did you know that 5/4 of attempted suicides are female?
Yeah. And it's like
But MRAs, right? And it's just like, are you fucking kidding me? Right? Like, it, all
uh,
he does is he just essentially sweeps every single issue that we talk about under a rug, right? Puts the rug back down, folds the corner back over, right? Moves the coffee table on top of it and pretends that it's not there, right?
well, here's the
While
thing.
there's pictures all over his wall of victimized women.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Like, and this is, yeah, he's hiding these things behind the women have it worse rug underneath he's sweeping all this crap into the, and all the men's issues under the women have it worse rug and putting the coffee table over top and being like, yeah, no. But the reason why he's doing it, here's the kicker, and this is why I went on that long rant about what made me actually hate feminism. The reason why he's doing this is not because he cares about women. It's because it makes him uncomfortable as a man. That's it. And what really bakes my noodle is that he's promoting a distortion about reality that doesn't just victimize women by making them out to be victims when they're not. It's a distortion about reality that means that there won't
Well,
ever be fewer female rape victims. There won't ever be fewer female victims of domestic violence. There won't ever be fewer victims of violence, period. He is promoting this. He is promoting continuing to rape and beat women because he's uncomfortable with part of the data set as a man.
okay, but do you think that
Yes, I do. I've talked to people like this over and over and over again. I've explained to them the logical steps how their belief system harms women. I've explained to them the logical steps of how, if you do not look at the whole set of data, you will never move the needle on all of these issues that women suffer from. So by ignoring half of the data, you are by definition ensuring that women will continue to suffer. I've said all of this, and all I get is some snide bullshit in response and them tap dancing away. They do not care about women.
Well,
They
I got
do not.
blocked by 3 people today on Twitter.
That's great. Why?
I didn't say anything mean.
Why did you get blocked?
Well, they came in and they started like essentially calling me a moron and misogynist and blah blah blah, and then I just like asked them questions and then they got blocked, and then I got blocked.
Well, of course.
The most recent block was, I said, my grandmother would have told you to stop whining and go find something useful to do. Right? And, describe my grandmother, right? Who lived to 99 3/4, right? And then they said, oh, so you're going to put words in your dead grandmother's mouth just to prove me wrong. That's disgusting. And then they blocked me.
I honestly think that this entire thing is motivated by two things: using women, exploiting women's issues in order to develop political power and political clout without any consideration for the effect on female victims, much less the effect on male victims. I'll give them that, because they don't really say that they care about male victims. So fine, they don't care about male victims, but they say they care about female victims, and that's why everybody hands them their moral righteousness. But they don't. It's really about being seen to advocate for the quote unquote largest number of women in order to get the political clout that means. And I think they even, I mean, on a high level, I think they understand that. They know we live in a society that wants to benefit women and protect and provide for them. And if you can occupy the position, if you can position yourself as the ideology that protects and provides for the most women, you have the keys to the kingdom. You got the keys to the kingdom.
Yeah.
That's it. You won. That's the win condition, friendgos. If you can position yourself like that, and they know that. So that's what they do. And they don't actually, this is the real big thing that liberated my mind in a lot of ways. They don't actually care about women. They just care about the political power that being seen to advocate for women gives them. And on the street level, those guys, just the people who push this line, like take down MRAs and all of her flying monkeys, I think it's her, they just enjoy the fact that they feel right.
Oh,
yeah.
Honestly, I think what really tipped me off to that kind of political cynicism was when I was at the 2012 National Organization for Women Conference, and Eve Ensler, the keynote speaker, right, comes running up the aisle in between the seats and goes to the podium, and she yells, "Are the vaginas in the house?" Right? And everybody cheers, and then she says, "Any vagina-friendly men in?" And everybody cheers, and I'm thinking, so she's referring to men as people and women as body parts. That's a little fucking weird.
Yeah, and a person like that is supposedly been handed the keys of the kingdom because she says, "Yeah, I advocate for women."
Oh yeah, no. And then she went on in her speech. She talked about the situation in the Congo. And she said that men were forced at gunpoint to rape their daughters, and sons were forced at gunpoint to rape their mothers and sisters. And I was like, if somebody's forced to have sex at gunpoint, they're not raping, they're a rape victim.
But men can't be victims.
Yeah, no, they can't.
Knowing Better has explained this to us.
Yes.
I mean, men can be momentarily indisposed by an issue before they radiate their masculine prowess at it, and it implodes into 1,000 pieces. But Knowing Better knows that men can never be truly vulnerable, not in the way the Little Women's can be.
Yeah. So
don't you feel protected by his smug aura of superiority?
And the thing is like, it's upsetting to me because he has a nose a lot like my guy's nose, And so when I look at him, right? I mean, my guy looks completely different except for the nose. But when I look at him, I get reminded of my guy a little bit, and it makes me angry at my guy because of associations and other
Okay.
irrational things.
You know what? I think we're totally in the dregs right now.
Oh yeah, no, we're like,
And I want to go to fucking bed. So good night,
at-
everybody.
we're so at the end of this.
So I guess we're just gonna stop it here.
Yeah, don't make us do this again.
No. I wanted
Let's find
to
the fresh turd.
Let me just okay. So I have the last thing that I want to play only because I find it interesting, the statistics that he puts out there and how he puts them next to each other, and I think there could be a relationship just based on the timing and stuff. So I want to play these two clips. They're short, but just let them play, and then you guys give me your thoughts. But first, I should read these super chats because I did get a couple of them, and I don't want to like not read them. So Troy Davidson gave us $5 and says, police are always flawless, but also they mistreat rape victims on purpose out of pure patriarchal malice. Yeah, interesting that. Joey Jojo gives us $5 and says, good luck with the ICMI. I miss watching these. Glad to see everyone is doing okay and the show is still going. Once a badger, always a badger. Catherine Scully gives us $5 Canadian and says, remember Mary Kay Letourneau? She was the woman who was a teacher, I think, and she slept with her student and they started a relationship. If the genders
13-year-old.
Yeah, 13-year-old. If the genders had been reversed, he would still be in jail. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Also, I think Bill Maher stood up for her. Oh, it was disgusting. Fear the Reaper gives us $5 and says, amazing with how the guilty until innocent standard, the false allegation rate is still 6.8 at best. Yeah, that's true. Thank you for the super chats, but if you want to give money, please go to Feed the Badger instead. It doesn't matter because we're only playing one more clip and then we're wrapping it up. But, okay, so he's going to talk a little bit about divorce rates, the rise in divorce rates, and then I'm going to play another one.
Paternity traps and even false allegations and domestic violence really only seem to come up during particularly messy divorces. There is no question that the family court system is biased against men. The divorce rate in the United States rose sharply during the 70s and 80s, but has been holding at 40 to 50% for the last few decades.
Okay, I'm stopping there for just a second. So it rose sharply in the 70s and 80s. About 40%, give or take. I mean, basically, it's close to like half the time, marriages end in divorce. I mean, the stats change year to year, but you get that. Okay, so let's play this next bit.
Half of all marriages end in divorce, whether it's your first or third. Dividing assets during a divorce is a messy process. Anything you earned or bought while you were together is technically both of yours, so things get divided 50-50, which is usually a raw deal for the man who was the primary breadwinner. But that's historically. In the decades since the women's liberation movement, women have become the primary breadwinner in 40% of households. So dividing
that fucking lying piece of shit.
But it's it like this is the thing I'm noticing.
40% of households.
Yeah.
The 40% of households where the woman is the primary breadwinner include divorced women who collect alimony and child support and don't work, and single mothers who collect welfare.
There is that.
Those are included in that 40% Fuck! I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. That was the only clip I wanted to play. But the thing I was thinking about that's interesting is he says ever since the women's liberation movement. So that's the 60s
Oh yeah,
and
no,
70s.
ever since the women's liberation movement, divorce just been like increasing and
women have been becoming more of like the breadwinner, but the divorce rate has also been going up.
Yeah, so, no, the divorce rate has been going up. You know why the divorce has been going up? Is because women get alimony and women get welfare. And if they didn't, they wouldn't be divorcing, because the majority of divorces are initiated by women, and the majority of women who initiate a divorce don't do it because of abuse. They don't do it even because of irreconcilable differences. They don't do it because like it's just impossible to get along. They do it because they're just not happy.
Yeah.
They're just not happy. Right?
Okay.
And you know what? When you can get paid like you were married after you divorce someone, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you not have to pick up his dirty socks? Why wouldn't you not have to deal with him kind of snorting a little bit while he's eating his French toast? Right? Scraping his knife on the plate a little too squeakily. Right? Why wouldn't he wanders around the house in his underpants? Why wouldn't you get rid of that guy? Because he's just not 100% great.
Okay.
ahead.
Why did you want to show us this?
What do you mean?
Because he
why do I
wanted to
wanna
make me
sell-
mad.
No,
That's why.
I thought the audience should see that so they can like
Because he's
see
trying to evade the realization that he's screwed if he marries a woman, because he doesn't want to. He's very uncomfortable with the idea of being vulnerable as a man, like really uncomfortable, despite believing that being uncomfortable with being vulnerable is probably toxic masculinity. It's like, it's just the hypocrisy of these people is so astounding. And I am talking to you with my eyes closed.
Okay,
well,
you
Because
go to
I'm
bed.
so
I'm gonna
tired.
go.
well, we
I'm
can
gonna
we
go.
can wrap it up. If you know, we could have done this earlier. So
And I'm sorry
and
about the
it's
tourism thing,
10
but I think
o'clock
I'm
where
so
I am.
tired
So
that I'm fixating on weird stuff.
all right.
Oh my god. You
Anyway,
know, honestly,
I-
I'm
the-
fixating on weird stuff too. I think we're all just kind of getting burnt out.
No, I'm
Yeah,
good.
I'm pretty
good.
burnt out.
Okay.
No, Brian sounds pretty perky, but
Brian's not burnt out.
No, Brian never gets burnt out. He's like impossible to burn out. He's like one of those Roman candles.
We're
I think.
here. Look, I'm here to entertain the audience. That's why we're here. That's what I do. That's
Oh
what they
my
want.
God.
They don't want us complaining about how tired we are. So, like, who wants to
All
tune
right,
in for
so
that?
let's end it. 'Cause
So-
if we don't end it now, all there's gonna be is a long list
Look,
complaining about how
Okay.
burnt out I am.
all right, I'll wrap it up. So, thanks guys for coming on. The reason why I wanted to show that last clip is I wanted you guys to see, and this is something that I think is worth pointing out. When you give a bunch of free shit to women and you tell them that they don't need men, all of a sudden they start divorcing men more often. So there is, like, he literally tells you this happened and this happened.
Weird.
And he
It's
doesn't,
super
it's
weird.
super weird. And he doesn't like make the correlation. And the reason why is because he can't bear the idea that women would take advantage of a system that literally arms them specifically to let them chase whatever it is they want, whenever they want it, without any responsibility. And that's how you get that. So, anyway, with that said, I want you guys to please give this video a like, subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and hit the bell for notifications so you know when our shows go live. The like is good for our analytics because it sort of like increases our odds, however slim they may be, of the video reaching more people. Also, leave us a comment in the low bar. Tell us what you think about the discussion.
Low bar.
As it was, not the low bar, but the comment section. And yeah, that's basically it. Also, please go to Feed the Badger and help us out. You know, we're very close to this next stretch goal. I think that I think that we can do it with your help. So with that said, I want to thank Karen and Allison for coming on, and I want to thank you guys for tuning in to watch, and I want to thank Knowing Better for providing this video with us to respond to. Maybe next time we'll do something else. I saw like a BBC thing about incels that was pretty cringe, and we could probably get something out of it. I don't know. So anyways, thanks guys for coming on, and have a great night, everybody.